Hey Jena, have you ever felt that primal chill down your spine just hearing whispers of things we can't quite explain, things that go beyond the everyday into the realm of the truly mysterious?
Absolutely, Zia. I mean, who hasn't, right? It's that feeling that something ancient and powerful is just lurking beneath the surface of our modern world. And today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most intriguing and often feared aspects of that black magic.
Black magic. Just saying the words evokes so much imagery, so many stories, often scary ones. But what is it really? And where did this whole concept even come from? It's not like someone just woke up one day and invented dark spells.
Exactly! Its origins are deeply interwoven with human history itself. When you look back, magic, in general, has always been a part of how people tried to understand and control their environment. For ancient civilizations, there wasn't a clear line between what we'd call science, religion, and magic. They were all part of the same tapestry.
That's a great point. It wasn't black or white magic then, just magic, used for healing, for fertility, for protection, but also for cursing enemies or manipulating outcomes. The black distinction, often tied to malevolent intent, really started to solidify later, especially with the rise of organized religions.
Right. Think about ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, even early Celtic traditions. They had priests, shamans, sorcerers who performed rituals for all sorts of purposes. Some of those rituals, if they were meant to bring harm or ill fortune to another, would certainly fit our modern definition of black magic, even if they didn't call it that.
And the term black magic itself seems to carry this weight of deliberate malice. It's about using supernatural forces for selfish gain, to harm others, or to gain power through unethical means. It's often contrasted with white magic, which is generally seen as benevolent, focused on healing or good fortune.
Exactly. The color symbolism is very strong there. White for purity, light, good. Black for darkness, shadow, evil. It's a very Western-centric categorization, though. Many indigenous cultures have a more nuanced view of magic, where the intent of the practitioner is what truly defines its nature, not some inherent quality of the magic itself.
That's an important distinction. So, when we talk about its introduction, we're really talking about a human impulse to influence events beyond their direct control, which then became categorized and moralized over millennia. But what about religious evidence? Because that's where things get really interesting and often contentious.
Oh, absolutely. Most major religions, without fail, acknowledge the existence of what we'd call black magic, or sorcery, witchcraft, necromancy. But here's the kicker, they almost universally condemn it.
Yeah, that's what I find fascinating. It's not often that a religious text will give you a step by step guide to casting a hex, but they will absolutely warn you against it, often with dire consequences. Think about the Abrahamic faiths Judaism, Christianity, Islam. They're pretty explicit.
Completely. In the Old Testament, for example, there are prohibitions against divination, necromancy, and sorcery. Deuteronomy 18:10 through 12 is pretty clear. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering, anyone who practices divination or tells fortunes or interprets omens, or a sorcerer. It goes on to say these things are an abomination to the Lord.
And Christianity follows suit with references in the New Testament to works of the flesh, including sorcery. In Islam, the Quran mentions magic sihr, and while it acknowledges its existence and potential influence, it strictly forbids its practice and warns against those who engage in it, often linking it to shirk or associating partners with God, which is a major sin.
Even in Eastern religions, while the concept might be framed differently, there are often spiritual principles that advise against using powers for harm or selfish gain. The idea of karma, for instance, suggests that any negative action, magical or otherwise, will eventually return to the sender.
So the evidence isn't prescriptive in the sense of this is how you do it, but rather descriptive and prohibitive, saying this exists, it's dangerous, and you absolutely shouldn't do it. It implies an inherent power and reality to it, even if that reality is framed as something to be avoided.
Exactly. The condemnation itself suggests a belief in its efficacy. Why warn people so strongly against something that has no power at all? It's like saying, don't touch the stove, it's not hot. Doesn't make sense, does it?
That's a very compelling argument. So, if it's acknowledged and widely condemned, why do so few people really know about its actual practices? It's mostly relegated to horror movies or obscure folk tales, right?
That's a multi-layered answer, I think. First, there's the taboo. Because it's so widely condemned, discussing it openly or admitting to practicing it carries a huge social stigma and historically severe legal consequences, like during the witch trials.
Oh, absolutely. The fear of being branded a witch or sorcerer was enough to keep any potential practitioners deep in the shadows or force them to abandon it entirely. Nobody wanted to end up burned at the stake or drowned.
Right, and it's also inherently clandestine. The nature of black magic, often involving intentions that might be considered harmful or unethical, naturally leads practitioners to secrecy. You don't exactly advertise that you're trying to curse your neighbor, do you?
Good point. Plus, genuine practices, if they exist, are often passed down orally or through obscure texts within very small closed groups. It's not something you find in a mainstream self help book section, let's just say.
Exactly. And then there's the sensationalism. Popular culture often misrepresents it, turning complex spiritual or psychological concepts into cheap thrills for movies or books. This makes it hard to separate fact from fiction, or what little fact there might be.
So it's a combination of historical persecution, the inherent secrecy of its supposed practitioners, and a thick layer of pop culture exaggeration that keeps most people in the dark about its real nature or existence. But that leads us to the $1 million question. Is it real?
Ah, the big one. And real can mean so many things. Is it real in the sense that someone can wave a wand, utter an incantation, and cause a lightning bolt to strike their enemy? Probably not in that Hollywood sense.
Yeah, I think most scientific, rational minds would agree that specific, demonstrable supernatural effects like that are, let's say, highly improbable. We're not seeing people levitating or conjuring demons in controlled environments.
But real can also mean having a significant psychological or emotional impact. Think about the nocebo effect, the opposite of the placebo effect. If someone genuinely believes they've been cursed, that belief alone can manifest as physical illness, bad luck, or even death.
That's a very powerful aspect, the power of belief, both for the person casting the spell and the person who believes they're affected by it. If a practitioner puts immense energy and intent into a ritual and the target becomes aware of it and believes in its power, that psychological impact can be profoundly real.
And cultures where belief in magic is strong, you see these effects much more pronounced. Voodoo deaths, for instance, where someone is cursed by a spiritual leader, and their belief in that curse leads to their actual decline and death. That's a very real phenomenon, even if the magic itself isn't scientifically measurable.
So, while a spell might not defy physics, it can certainly influence human behavior, perception, and even physical well being through psychological channels. It's real in its impact, even if its mechanism is different from what popular fiction suggests.
I think that's a very balanced way to look at it. It taps into the power of the human mind, both conscious and subconscious. And let's not forget the manipulation aspect. Some practitioners are simply con artists using fear and superstition to extort money or gain control over vulnerable individuals.
Which, ironically, is a very real and tangible negative effect of belief in black magic. So, moving on from whether it's real in a supernatural sense, the next logical question is it good? And I think we've already touched upon this, but let's be explicit.
Explicitly, no. By definition, black magic is not good. It's characterized by negative intent. Its purpose is typically to harm, control, manipulate, or gain unfair advantage over others. That's why it's been universally condemned by spiritual traditions.
It's the antithesis of altruism. It's rooted in ego, jealousy, anger, greed. When you think about any ethical framework, whether religious or secular, actions intended to cause harm to others are generally considered negative or bad.
Exactly. Even if you don't believe in spiritual retribution, the very act of focusing on negative intentions and desiring harm for others can't be good for the practitioner's own psyche. It's like harboring resentment. It eats away at you from the inside.
It definitely impacts your own vibrational energy if you're into that sort of thing. If you're constantly radiating negativity, that's what you're likely to attract back. It's a self fulfilling prophecy of sorts, so definitely not good in any meaningful sense.
No, it's not. But then this brings us to another intriguing point. If it's so dangerous, so condemned, and so not good, why aren't practitioners punished? I mean, beyond the historical persecutions we talked about, what about now?
Well, legally speaking, you can't prosecute someone for casting a spell. Modern legal systems are based on tangible evidence and demonstrable harm. If someone claims to have cursed you and you get sick, Proving that the curse caused the illness in a court of law is, shall we say, impossible.
Right, unless their magic involved physically harming you or defrauding you out of money under false pretenses. Like if someone claims to remove a curse but demands thousands of dollars and then disappears, that's fraud, and that's prosecutable, but not the curse itself.
Exactly. The law steps in when actions are taken that violate established legal codes, regardless of the magical context. So, if a black magic practitioner commits assault, extortion, harassment, or fraud, they will be punished by the legal system, but for the mundane crime, not the supernatural one.
So the punishment isn't for the act of magic itself, but for the tangible criminal acts that might accompany it. It's a very important distinction that often gets muddled in people's minds.
And then there's the idea of spiritual or karmic punishment, which many spiritual traditions believe in. The idea that negative actions, especially those fueled by malicious intent, will eventually rebound on the practitioner, a sort of universal justice that operates outside of human laws.
Yeah, the threefold law or rule of three in some pagan traditions, where whatever you send out comes back to you 3 times stronger, is a pretty good example of that. It's a deterrent, suggesting that even if you escape human justice, there's a higher consequence.
So, while there's no magic police or spell court, the belief systems themselves provide a framework for accountability, either through karmic return or through the mental and spiritual degradation of the practitioner themselves. It's a subtle but powerful form of self inflicted consequence.
Absolutely. Ultimately, diving into black magic reveals more about human nature, our fears, our desires for control, and our understanding of good versus evil than it does about specific supernatural events. It's a mirror reflecting our own internal struggles.
That's a beautiful way to put it, Jenna. It's less about the literal dark arts and more about the darkness within ourselves that we grapple with. And perhaps the strongest magic of all is understanding and managing our own intentions.
I couldn't agree more, Zia. It's a fascinating, if sometimes unsettling journey into the human psyche and the ancient beliefs that continue to shape our world. Thanks for joining me on this shadowy exploration.
Always a pleasure, Jenna. And to all our listeners, remember to approach these topics with an open mind but a critical eye. Stay curious, stay questioning, and we'll catch you next time.